Here is another warning that I issued to the Democratic Party on that Newsweek article last October.
The Democratic Party has this profound skill in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's an issue that they would not have had if they had leaned on where people were hurting and how they were going to help them. And they didn't do that. They went with a very conservative lean. The Democratic Party's like harm reduction strategy as a way to just like shame voters away from extracting concessions and just voting for the Democrats every single time without making any demands whatsoever, as they actively push a lot of people in the base of the party away. If you rely on that without offering things to people, well, then you're inevitably shrinking your base. Whether Trump wins or loses, we are, and I mean this, living in Trump's America. Like, he might lose this election, and the Democratic Party will push Trump's 2020 agenda. That's what they're running on. That to me is crazy. That to me is genuinely terrifying to think about. The Democratic Party has this.
Yeah, but no, what do I know? And it's not just that either. There was a bunch of other issues here, like in terms of youth turnout, the male youth vote. That is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. I sounded the alarm about right-wingers dominating the online space for young men. 47% of the 18 to 29-year-old men voted for Donald Trump this election cycle. The amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center-right to, I wouldn't say far-right in the same way that it was back in like the 2016 era at the end of like Obama's administration, but like definitely center-right to Trumpian right, like openly Trump right, not like genuinely neo-Nazi. Go back and re-examine the conversation I had with the Pod Johns. The Pod Johns are the most like permissible left-leaning people that you can have within the orbit of the Democratic Party versus someone who is completely outside of the influence, outside of the sphere of the Democratic Party. Compare that conversation, compare the notes, compare the warnings that I issued to the Pod Johns on the Crooked Media podcast that I was on, okay? And you will understand why we failed. You will understand why the Democratic Party failed. You will understand what the Democratic Party has to do. They will not do it because obviously they are beholden to the same corporate benefactors. They are still beholden to the same corporate masters, just as the Republican Party is. But the Republican Party gets away with being cruel. The Democratic Party still has to maintain the veneer that they are progressive, that they're supposed to be a counterbalance, that they're supposed to be a counterweight to the Republican creep towards fascism. Okay? That part is quieted down a little bit, but like they're like 90% of the way there for the most part. And that's it. Everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic, thought leaders, influencers that they subscribe to. And I think that that is some of the reason why you see this movement. The bro vote came through for Trump, 49 to 47. Yeah. 49% to 47%. Okay? I don't think people understand what this looks like. I don't think people understand what the future prospects look like for the Democratic Party, what the future looks like for this country. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, the progressive era has to end if the Democrats want to win again. They are tacking right again. It does not matter for them. They literally, as I told you, also correctly, they do not give a shit. They do not care. They do not care about this defeat. They're using this to say, we didn't go far right enough. It's a 30-point shift to the right. Facts don't matter anymore. There's a whole generation of young people influenced by disinformation, fed by influencers who are primarily right-wing. Other than you, there are no examples of relatable masculinity on the left for young people under 30. Yes, I am going to continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue getting mercilessly shitted on by those psychopathic demons on the right that are capturing the attention of young men in general. It doesn't matter, though. It's not This is not like simply a cultural war that you can win with. This is not a cultural war that you can win just by doing podcasts. That's not, you can't do that. You have to still have a solid defense mechanism at the top that aligns with the interests of people like myself. Okay? If the Democratic Party still is running around being like, everything is fine, actually. I mean, oh my God, just vote for us. The institutions, we got to defend the institutions. While everyone is like, I don't give a about the institutions, man. The price of bread is too high. The price of eggs is too high. You. I don't give a shit about your stupid civility. I want to blow it up is their mentality. You can't reach to them. You can't reach out to them. You can't communicate to them. There is a lot of ground to make up. The biggest lesson of 2024 campaign ads don't matter. Studies agree, but the media space does. The right has content mills churning out brain dead slop. They're popular. They work. Dem should plow through their massive warships in the progressive and liberal media. No, that's not the only problem here. That's not the only issue. It's not just that, like, they're not giving me enough money so I can dominate the podcast circuit or whatever. If their solution is to unleash 1 million Harry Sassans into the suburbs, they're still going to lose. They have to address the material harms that people are experiencing. If they don't do that, it doesn't matter. You can have every single TikTok twink out there running the gamut, talking about owning people in the marketplace of ideas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not just about dominating the communications field, okay? It's not just that. And I like some of those guys, okay? But that's not the major issue. You cannot have a party that is ideologically committed to third-way neoliberalism, constantly tacking to the center right, constantly trying to re-triangulate as the Republican Party pulls the entire country towards fascism. You can't do that. Because if one party's saying, we're going to do concentration camps, we want to kill migrants, and the other party's like, no, actually, we want to kill the migrants, but like in a gay way, people are going to be like, okay, I'm going to go with the migrant murder party instead. They've been there for years and years. I trust them more on this issue. Now the only thing you've done as the Democratic Party is you basically said, it's normal. You've normalized that position now. Good job. Good job. All the while, the entire resentment towards migrants literally stems from nothing. It's not even real. It's not a real problem. There is no national security threat that migrants constitute in the United States of America. Undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. That's why it's literally born out of a lie. It's just made up. It's just pure vitriolic racism. What is this? Atlanta Journal-Constitution update. Several of the migrants I've been speaking with say they would have voted for Trump themselves. Most of the folks who crossed the border illegally in the last 2 to 3 years, they don't believe Trump will deport them because they are here to work and are not criminals. That's the other aspect of this. How many times have I described to you, Americans don't know. They don't understand what the impact of policy is going to look like. They don't know. Until it happens. Look at Roe v. Wade. Look at Roe v. Wade. Has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. I think Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. But worse than that, even if Joe Biden wins, I think we go back to business as usual politics here in America. And next time around, it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's actually going to be an ideologically minded fascist, not a proto-fascist who kind of succeeded somehow and fooled Americans for long enough to get into a position of power, but an actual terrifying leader.
Oh, my goodness.
I think Trump. Oh, my goodness. Well, I was wrong. It was Donald Trump, at least on that front. But it's Donald Trump who is the fascist. Go back long enough, you will find me accurately telling you exactly what the is going to happen. But do they not understand that you don't have close enough influence to sway the entire election? No, this is not about me. Like, the people that come in here and say you're responsible for this electoral defeat are just like delusional losers that are looking to place the finger of blame at anyone but the Democratic Party for some weird reason, okay? Staggering class realignment / shift in working class from Jeff Stein at Washington Post. Harris lost despite major shift of affluent voters her way. Literally what I said about her hemorrhaging the base while simultaneously desperately trying to grab on to as many suburban Hitlerites as possible happened. That's it. The base fell out. The bottom fell. That's what happens when you run around and go, I'm small business. I'm a small business. I love transnational gangs and prosecuting them. I love prosecuting small transnational gangs as a business. What am I going to do for the economy? Oh, don't worry. $50,000 in tax cuts if you want to start a startup. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Talk about how you are going to unleash Lena Khan on price gougers. Talk about how you're going to make the grocery stores scream bloody murder for the crime of price gouging. That's what people wanted. That's what they wanted. Yeah, this is the chart. She spent months courting Republican endorsements, writing the 2016 Clinton strategy to certain defeat. They risked it all to build a centrist party of suburbanites and college kids and lost. It's time to move on, but I don't think the Dems will move with us. Registered Republicans, shockingly, voted for Republicans. Kamala Harris saw Nikki Haley absolutely get demolished in the Republican primary and said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Nikki Haley, but with a D next to my name. $400,000 likes, by the way. This is not Kamala's fault. She worked her ass off to a beautiful campaign with 100 days she had. She's arguably the most qualified U.S. presidential candidate ever with prior experience in all three branches of the government. Americans simply voted against their best interest. Like, I don't disagree with some of the sentiment here, except for the major one, which is, yes, it is her fault. It is always the fault of the campaign. She had $1 billion. She had $1 billion and she lit it on fire. Shut the up. What do you need? $2 billion? You want $3 billion? The are these people talking about? I don't want to say I told you so, but this run to the moderates looks like a spectacular failure. Lethal military, muscular border policy, and parading Liz Cheney didn't swing votes in Dems' favor and only worked to normalize Republican positions. And the bottom fell out. This kind of narrative needs to be crushed to death. It's neoliberalism all the way down. Neoliberalism must die for the Democratic Party to live. Yeah, the issue is the Republicans and the Democrats are both doing that, but the Republicans are at least communicating a right-wing populist sentiment, and populism works. When you do not trust the institutions, you want someone who has a chance of defeating Joe Biden, at least lies. You know what I mean? At least lies to you. And let me tell you, a lot of people are going to talk about mass deportations because that was the signature policy for the Trump campaign. They're going to say, how the are undocumented migrants down for the mass deportation stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense. They must be stupid. They must be stupid as how the is everybody down for undocumented migrants being mass deported? Okay. Adam Kinzinger tried to dunk you on this bullshit. How to guarantee a loss in 2028. That's amazing. Does he mean the strategy you're talking about is how to lose, or is he a dipshit? I know he's saying he's saying that, like, we didn't go hard enough on the muscular military shit. For the record, I want you guys to understand something, okay? Number one, plenty of people are going to look to the results and say, we just didn't go far right enough. That is dumb. That is stupid. You are pushing away your base and you are hemorrhaging support from demographics that literally are anti-establishment and loved Bernie Sanders, okay? This is very important. Key constituencies that loved Bernie Sanders are now completely lost. Young Latino men, young Latino voters in general, either don't vote or young Latino men straight up went to the Republican Party. That was the Bernie constituency. young Arab men and Arab men in general, Arab women in general, okay, either went to the Republican Party due to the Gaza shit or just didn't vote, okay? These are people who were literally the Bernie bros, right? You were so resistant. You kept saying that they were misogynistic, and you pushed them away into either not voting or even going, you know what? I actually wanted health care and none of this gay shit. I don't really care about the gay stuff at all, but I just want health care, into going, you know what? No one's giving me health care, but I still don't want the gay shit. At least this guy is representing the anger that I feel. I cannot comprehend how we have lost so many people. I mean, I can comprehend it. I know exactly how it happened, but I just cannot comprehend how the Democratic Party has not been responsive at all to this depolarization on racial boundaries. And another thing I want to point to, by the way, they chirped so much at black people, so much. What did they do? They were like, oh, there's a big swing for black men towards Donald Trump. What did I tell you? I told you that that was going to be marginal in comparison to Latino men and, more importantly, white men without a college degree. White men without a college degree and Latino men without a college degree went by much larger numbers of the Republican Party than black men without a college degree. But that didn't stop the Kamala Harris campaign from activating O'Bungler to go out and be like, oh, well, seems like a lot of you black men are a little misogynistic. And pussy too. You think that's a good message? The fuck? Yeah, I'm glad that we spent a whole ordeal centering the narrative around how black people are too misogynistic to vote for a black woman. That was great. That was a great media opportunity. Great stuff. What did I tell you? I told you that shit was bunk. It was nothing. It was ridiculous to hyper-focus on black men, which was going to be a sliver, much smaller percentage regardless. Despite all that chatter, Trump didn't really gain with black voters nationwide. 86% Harris, 12% Trump. Unchanged from 2020 when 87% of black voters went for Biden and 12% went for Trump. Black men statistic, 78-20 in 2024, 79-19 in 2020. 1%. It drove discourse for a week. 1%. I said it. I told you this shit was bunk. It was bullshit. It was just a permission structure for white liberals to just shit on black people again. Okay? And that's precisely what the happened. For no reason. It is terrifying to watch the Democratic Party just hemorrhage its base and refuse. Make no mistake, they are the idealists. Okay? They are the idealists. Okay? The liberals at the tippy top of the Democratic Party are ideologically committed to a dead movement. Neoliberalism has failed. Tacking to the right over and over again has failed. And yet, win or lose, they go, we just got to go to the right. We just got to get more racist. No lessons learned whatsoever. It does not matter to them. That is why they ran a dogshit campaign, in spite all signs pointing to major flaws. How many times did I show you 30 plus polls that were conducted on separating Kamala Harris from Joe Biden on Gaza and how beneficial that would be? The margin of enthusiasm would make up for the percentage point of loss that Kamala Harris had in every single swing state, every single one. Just on that issue alone, you lost 0 voters if you changed trajectory on Gaza, and you only stood to gain voters if you changed trajectory, even on the communications front. It would have been a hard thing to to explain to people that you were going to be different than your administration that you're a part of. Okay? It's not being a single issue voter. There are plenty of people who are single issue voters, however, on this matter. Dear White staffers is calling for campaign workers to leak the mismanagement. Like, your ground game does not matter if the top line communication is bunk. Okay? You cannot outflank the campaign. You can't lie to people when you're door knocking and be like, no, Kamala Harris is for Medicare for all. When you're door knocking, you can't turn around and just like lie to people about what the campaign actually represents. If the campaign is saying these are our talking points, if the campaign is saying we are going to be the civility party, we're going to be the defenders of the institutions, and that's your like overall communication to voters, that's the thing that you are presenting to voters as the reason for why they must vote for you. Okay? People are not going to touch that. And last but not least, of course, one of the biggest problems was Joseph Robinette Brandon. Prem Tucker is completely right. Why vote for a diet Republican when you can vote for the real thing? Do you think it's just a Palestine situation? From what I heard, is a suburban white man that didn't show up. No, it's not just a Palestine situation. That's just another glaringly obvious flaw from the campaign that shows me and everyone else that's paying close attention that they didn't have the votes to lose, and yet they were acting like it was fine, that they could win without them, that they could win without these votes. Here's the poll on the matter, okay? In Pennsylvania, 34% of respondents said they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic nominee if the nominee vowed to withhold weapons to Israel, compared to 7% who said they would be less likely. The rest said it would make no difference. In Arizona, 35% said they'd be more likely, while 5% said they'd be less likely. And in Georgia, 39% said they'd be more likely, also compared to 5% would be less likely. Now, this doesn't mean that like 34% of people that responded that they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic Party weren't going to vote, and now they are definitely voting. That doesn't mean that at all. But in those massive margins, you have to recognize that there is at least a 5 to 6% swing in your direction because the war is deeply unpopular by Americans. And it's not the only poll. There was like 30 plus issue polls that showed this reality. 30 plus. Emma retweeted this. My takeaway from the results, it looks like America has shifted right a lot. Some of this has to do with the frustrations over inflation, sure, but I think there's more here. Democrats have been running campaigns the old-fashioned way, and I think we acknowledge that it's not cutting it. We raise money like crazy, mop the floor, Republicans and voter contact efforts, get out the vote operations and advertising. We also get way more major endorsements, but at the end of the day, it barely makes a difference. Most voters get their news through social media, and on social platforms, we are getting washed. Since 2015, Republicans have been building up their infrastructure to control the airwaves, and right now they do. Their content gets more impressive. Impressions on nearly every platform. That's true. All of this stuff is true. I've been saying this. I've been ringing the alarm bells about this shit too. But you have to remember, it's not that the country is moving to the right. Please make no mistake. Okay. On every single issue poll, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. On every single issue poll, every single one, when faced with two options, mass deportation or mass amnesty wins. It's got majority approval. So why is the Democratic Party not showing that? People say trans panic stuff is really, really good. The anti-trans messaging is really successful. It's a massive banger, okay? It's a really good way to campaign. 64% of the population think trans people are being discriminated against unfairly. It is not like it is what you see in the media. What you see in the media and what is represented in the media is not the reality on the ground. That is precisely the reason why a faceless, lifeless ballot measure that, if communicated by Democrats, would be considered a radical one, like increasing the minimum wage to $15, passes in a state like Missouri. That's it. Abortion protections are massively popular in states where Democrats lose by 10 points. How? I thought America wasn't progressive. I thought they hated progress. How is that possible? Perhaps it is because the Democrats are so scared for pushing. If Trump wins, there'll be efforts to blame Russia interference or Harris or Biden, etc. That's all fair, but we need to be clear-eyed that a huge swath of America likes what Trump is selling, transphobia, mass deportation. That's what he ran on, and here we are. No, dude, no. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a reason for this, okay? I'll give you a reason for this. Here's what I mean. There are tens of thousands of people in this community that voted for Kamala Harris. Do you agree with Kamala Harris's policies across the board? Do you? No, of course you don't. No. Of course you don't. And there are plenty of Republicans that either aren't paying attention or don't give a about any of this shit either. And they just think, oh, he's going to fix the economy. And they're dumb enough to think that that is, going to happen with Donald Trump. That's it. That's it. That's it. The idea that like everyone is hyper tuned to every single part of the campaign's messaging. And that's what they're so excited to go out and vote for Donald Trump because they all want concentration camps at the border is stupid. It literally does not track with reality. It does not track with the messaging polls on this. And you'll see it. When he starts the mass deportations, you'll see how angry people get. Because one, what do I always say? Americans don't understand the policies that they're either voting for or just don't think about it at all. They just don't know how bad it's going to be. And that is a flaw on the counter messaging side from the Democratic Party. They never once communicated that all this border shit was bunk, that it was all born out of right-wing panic, hysteria. You think it's an accident that every 2 years, whenever there is a midterm or a general election, there's a caravan that comes out of nowhere? They pulled that ripcord over and over again. You know they're going to do it. Show me the clip, chat. You know the one I'm talking about. 2021, when Biden started going against the anti-immigrant rhetoric. I said this. I said that this was going to be a massively consequential problem for the Democratic Party. You know the one I'm talking about. All the way back in April 2021. One of you's got to have it. What is this? When historians look back at this election, they're going to see this moment as the one that solidified the victory for Trump. Yeah, radical progressive, according to Dems, Tlaib had nearly double what Harris had for voters in Dearborn. In Dearborn, Rashida Tlaib did nearly twice as well as Kamala Harris. Speaking of Rashida Tlaib, I'm going to be having her on the broadcast on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Harris says there's not much she'd have done differently than Biden over the last 4 years. What a baffling concept.